The most apparent thing that I noticed was how most of the people in the study derived their sense of identity and well-being from their immediate surroundings rather from within themselves. And that's why they broke down. Just couldn't stand the pressure. They had nothing within them to hold up against all of this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Tiltingground Untitled Notre Dame USC football podcast. I'm Michael Muto, and I'm here with Greg Flamong. How are you, Greg?
Hello, Michael.
That was a quote. Oh, sorry. That was a quote from Philip J. Zambardo in The Lucifer Effect, Understanding How Good People Turn Evil, otherwise known as the Stanford Prison Guard Experiment. I feel like that was appropriate for today.
The Stanford Prison Experiment that is very famous in my circle.
Oh, how are you, Greg?
I imagine I'm much better than you are, my friend.
I don't even know where to start.
Well, I mean, let's start with you guys.
Yeah.
So I'll just give a little background on my knowledge of the situation. So, as I mentioned last podcast, so I was in South Bend for the game against Georgia Tech this weekend. So, it's kind of difficult to like in South Bend. There's a couple bars, but there aren't that many, and we had kind of a tight schedule, so we needed to get back to our hotel. So I didn't really get a chance. And the place where we went to eat, like they didn't want to put on the SC games. So, like I saw at halftime, I saw the touchdown before halftime. And then after that, I was just kind of following online. And I got your text that said SC might be in trouble. So I wasn't really following, but I saw when Stanford went up 41-31. So with like 2 minutes left, and I figured out it's probably SC probably is going to lose, and Mike's probably going to be pretty annoyed.
You have no idea the yelling at the TV, just the sunken shoulders, the deep.
I have some idea, my friend, because that happens to me on a weekly basis. The thing that I had told Tim when I talked to him this week about it was I hadn't looked at the box score, but the way that Stanford wins these games, and I just said I guarantee that Stanford's third down conversion rate was very good. and I checked the box score, and they were 8 of 12. And so that's just how they are. Like when they win games like this, you cannot get them off the field. I feel like you always in like 3rd and 4, and they always hit the guy for like a 6-yard route to move the chains, and this offense stays on the field, and you can't get your offense back on the field. Because I was looking at your box score, like the offense was fine. I mean, I want to say they averaged like something like 6 yards a play. So,
yeah, the offense was fine. The numbers were fine, at least.
Yeah. So, so that was kind of my just looking at the box score and just knowing like how Stanford plays, because Notre Dame plays them every year too. So, I know how they win games. So that was just kind of my, checking it out. So, tell me on your end, how did you experience the game on Saturday?
It was awful. It was just awful, man. I mean, you could only watch Stanford run their same 3 plays. Power right, power left, ISO up the middle. Like, cool. Just all game. First down, 4 yards a pop. Second down, 3 yards. Well, a convertible third down, awesome. It's just awful to watch. It's like, you know what they're gonna do. Everyone in the building knows what they're gonna do. We said what they were gonna do last time on the podcast.
It is super boring.
It's like great. Okay, cool. So you're supposed to have this great defensive line or all this depth, and we'll put a good player out there who could clog up the middle. That would be great. You're supposed to have a freshman linebacker and a senior right behind him, and Sua Cravens, who's an all-world. It's like, okay, well, let's stop the run then. Like, can you do that? No, they can't. And then, so I mean, it's a close game. They're hanging around, and they're winning almost. And then right before halftime, the stupid touchdown right before halftime. I lost it. I just lost it.
I had a chance to see. I had a chance to see that one. That was tough.
So what are you doing? Like, who's in charge? That was the thing I was yelling at the TV a lot too. That who's in charge and this is your job. like, like what you okay? What was it like? Man coverage with no one back? It's like it's the end of the game. Just drop a safety back there just for fun to make sure you don't get beat deep. Like I don't know. I'm not a defensive coordinator. I just watch the games. Oh, it was so mad, and you knew when they scored with 3 seconds left or whatever it was that it was over. They got the ball after halftime, and that was it. I mean, it's just more of the same, more of the same. SC can't stop them. More of the same. SC's terrible at converting third downs, so that's cool. Like I think they're 8 for 26 on the season. Third down conversion not the most reliable stat because there's a lot of other things that could happen in a game.
Well, if you're not really in third down, then you don't really have to worry about third down conversions, right? I mean,
right.
So and I imagine SC they're not in third down that often, so especially in the first 2 weeks.
I mean, still, I think Idaho. I think they only had like 1 or 2 third down conversions. Not good. So yeah, 31% on the season, terrible. I'm just used to the good old days of Matt Leinart throwing it up to Mike Williams and Reggie Bush just running around. I don't know. All these guys are supposed to be pros and talents.
Well, if it makes you feel better, SC was actually this was their best game on third down. They were 4 of 10 at 40%. The previous high was 30% against Arkansas State.
So they're improving. Great.
Yes, I mean, silver lining.
Trending up. I love it.
Well, I think that one of the things that you have to do with Stanford is, I mean, it's like you say, they're a ball control team. When you allow Kevin Hogan to complete 18 of 24 for 279 yards, I mean, that's over 11 yards per attempt. So they're not really like a big play passing team, but when you let that happen, when you let them convert big plays and get so much out of their passing game, like 279 yards is a lot for just 24 attempts.
Yeah.
So, it's a team that wants to run the ball. So when they do throw, if you're letting them get the maximum out of it that they can, to where, they're moving the ball down the field. I mean, usually it takes so much work for them to score when you allow them to kind of get big plays and then they go to the running game. It makes it a lot harder. And I mean, it's Kevin Hogan, right? It's not like, it's not like if he was any good, he'd be in the NFL, right? Like that's kind of how it is with fifth-year seniors. Like if he was good, he was eligible to leave,
right? And
he did not. So, just looking at his previous games, he was great against UCF. He was not great against Northwestern.
Well, some wise person told me that the biggest jump happens between games 1 and 2.
Games 1 and 2.
Yeah, I mean, you just can't let that stuff happen, and it happens every year. I mean, it's been happening since Pete Carroll was there. Stanford just runs up and down the Coliseum.
Yeah.
Couple other things screaming at my TV again on the last drive. I mean, they were down 10, probably not going to win anyways, but it's like, hey, Cody Kessler, the receivers are wide open in the middle of the field because the clock keeps running. It's like throwing out. Clock the ball. Steve Sarkisian, call a timeout. Like this, you can't take them with you. Do they start the Arizona State game with 5 timeouts? I don't know. Because it's like, what are you guys doing? I mean, there wasn't that much time left. They're not going to win anyways. But still, it's just, play like you mean it. Play to win the games.
Was there any particular coaching gaff decisions that you felt like were a little questionable?
Everybody around the SC circles is asking for Justin Wilcox's head about no adjustments, and it looked like they were just doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, it was close at halftime. What are you really going to change? You're supposed to have these playmakers. I'm a fan of trust the players. That's why you have them. What are they supposed to do? It's like, you know what Stanford's doing. They just got to tell your guys, hey, like, they're going to do this. Please stop it. Like, I mean, maybe they didn't know. Maybe the coaches didn't know what was going on. I mean, I'm not on the sidelines. I don't know. But it seemed like they weren't prepared. Penalties are another problem. There are, like, who was it? Max Turk. He had a good little personal foul penalty in the fourth quarter. That was a fun one. Like, you're supposed to be a senior leader. You know better than that. Right. My guy Cameron Smith had a pretty good pass interference. He almost sold it. He almost sold it like it was incidental contact going up the sideline with the running back, or like it was uncatchable. But it was pretty good. He got his body on the running back out of the backfield. I liked it. He sold it really well, but they caught him. I mean, it's just, you can't have these things. They're averaging like 60 yards and penalties a game. That's not good.
What number is? Who's number 45 on the defense?
45 is Porter Gustin. He's a outside linebacker. He's supposed to be like their rusher guy on one of their other second rotations. Okay,
so one thing that I noticed about him, and I'm curious, or like the only reason I asked you that is I'm curious about what you think of this too, because so I was following the game, like I said, online, or like on my phone basically, so Twitter, and Daniel Jeremiah, who was a former scout for a number of NFL teams, and he now works for the NFL Network, somewhat in the same capacity. He was tweeting out that number 45. I think the tweet was literally like, I don't know who number 45 is, but he doesn't play enough. And then he basically sent out a couple more tweets about the same thing. Like, where is number 45? Like, no one can block him. Why isn't he playing?
That's been going around SC circles as well. As where's Porter Gustin? Everybody loves Porter Gustin. But I mean, if you're so good, like, I think the coaches, hopefully they know that you'd get in there.
Who's ahead of him?
And they do, what's his name? I can't think of it right now. Scott. Felix Scott. He has two first names. So he's ahead of him. I think it's this rotation thing that the coaches do, where you're not really putting your best players out there. You have these units and these player groupings and this personnel stuff.
I think it's like, Scott Felix.
Yeah, there we go. Two first names, right?
Two first names.
So, I think that's part of the problem is they're not just, okay, let's sub in who's hot. They got to keep with these groupings. And I heard on the last drive, they started with the second grouping of defensive linemen. And it's like, hey, well, if this is the biggest drive of the game, you're within a touchdown right now. Why is the second grouping out there? Why isn't the first? They're the first for a reason, right? Or maybe if they're tired, then you put the backup nose tackle in. Or if you need to beef it up, you put a heavier guy in. Like, you kind of make adjustments on the fly, not this weird like rotation thing. I think that's part of the problem. What else?
He is a junior. People love to play their juniors for some reason. Anyway, another problem. Go for it.
Another problem. Where's Adoree Jackson? I hear he's special. He can win the Heisman. He's Charles Woodson. Like, where's this guy? He doesn't have an interception yet. He doesn't have a touchdown yet. He got a bunch of return yards against Stanford, but that's because they scored 41 points. Like I think he got one called back, right? So that kind of sucks for him. But where was your return against Idaho? They're not good. Like, cool, you had 62 yards receiving, fun. Like, where were your receiving yards against Stanford? You had 0. You're supposed to be this world class athlete. Like, do something. You're supposed to be a game changer. Change the game.
How many snaps did he get offensively?
He got, I think it was like 17, but let me check.
That's a good amount. 17 snaps is a good amount to not get the ball. I mean, just
I could be lying.
You figure, well, I mean, you figure if you put him in, like they're not, like you're not going to put him in to not get him involved. I mean, to have no receptions is pretty unbelievable.
It was either 17 or 9. It was one of those numbers.
Either way, I mean, even if it's 9, like it needs to be 9 quality. I mean, maybe they threw it to him and he didn't catch the ball, but I mean, I remember against Notre Dame last year, like they were just throwing to him out of the backfield.
It's like, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, so it wasn't like anything complicated.
I don't think he has a rushing yard yet this season. Like, just get
he
him.
Does not have a rushing attempt. No.
Like, get him on an end around. Do something fun.
Yeah.
Just do something creative. He's supposed to be this great player. The running backs weren't that great either. I mean, they were, but they didn't get the ball enough. Actually, I shouldn't just besmirch the good name of the running backs like that. Like Ronald Johnson, he had a couple carries for like 19 yards. It just wasn't the best day, for
Ronald Jones.
Yes, RJ2.
I'll always know his name. He's going to haunt my dreams.
Yeah, it's just there was just a lot, and it's another game without turnovers. That's not cool. You're supposed to be a good defense. Get turnovers. That's really important to winning games or getting Stanford off the field. Cause a fumble.
Yeah, Ronald Jones got bottled up in this one, 6 for 19, 3.1 a carry. But I mean, Trey Madden, if I remember right, he had a pretty good game.
Well, he started really hot, and then they went away from him, and I'm not sure why. On the first drive, he got a bunch of yards, and then they kind of
9 for 64 there.
Yeah,
7 yards to carry. I feel like maybe you could have stuck with that.
Would have been nice. I mean, even Justin Davis had 8 for 46. That's pretty good, but I don't know. I just feel like they didn't have big plays when they needed it. And, Juju Smith had a great game again. Juju Smith-Schuster, excuse me, had another great game. But
Schuster.
I don't know, Greg. I just don't know. So,
well, it just seems like it just from looking here. So, I mean, I'm going to check. I'm going to see if I can check out. I mean, obviously, I'd have to say Stanford had to have had the ball so much more. I mean, Cody Kessler, 25 of 32. So, I mean, he's efficient. They're running the ball for 5.5 yards a carry. I mean, you have to think that this just came down to they couldn't get Stanford off the field. I mean, they couldn't get stops.
No stops.
Right? I mean,
I think Stanford had the ball for like 75 plays, 74 plays, and like 21 minutes, something around there.
Yeah, let me darn it. Where is it?
Here we go. Total offensive plays, 73. And let's see, time of possession is not on this sheet. But yeah, 74. It was around 20. It was a little over 20. Oh, here it is. 20 minutes, 31 seconds.
Who had the ball?
Stanford for a little over 20 minutes and ran 73 plays.
That can't be right. It's a 60-minute game. SC had the ball for 40 minutes? Is that what you're telling me?
No. Did I do that backwards? I did it backwards. I'm sorry. Stanford had it for 39.
So Stanford had it
for 39. I'm sorry. I did it backwards.
So Stanford, okay, that's what I was thinking. So Stanford had it for 40 minutes, and SC had it for 20 minutes.
There we go.
They're right at about 6.5 yards of play. So I mean, it seems like offensively they just didn't have the ball enough. I mean, they scored 31 points in 20 minutes. I mean, that's pretty impressive. So I mean,
I guess it's defensive failure.
Yeah, so I guess the biggest question is like why? I mean, why are you giving up 474 yards and 6.5 yards of play to Stanford, who against against Northwestern puts up 240 yards total offense? I mean, that's the thing that's interesting. I mean, what happened there?
Northwestern's just that good, I guess.
Apparently.
Big Ten football. Big Ten football is not to be messed with. It kills me to say that.
I mean, they have the most points they've given up this year is 327 yards total offense. and that's Northwestern. Now, granted, after Stanford, they played Eastern Illinois and Duke. So I don't know that Duke's supposed to be good this year, but
probably not that good.
I mean, they've shown themselves to be pretty good anyway. I don't know. It just seems like, man, that's a defensive.
Where does USC go from here? That's what I want to know.
Well, I mean, I guess it just depends on. I mean, Stanford did everything they wanted, right? They almost ran for 200. They almost threw for 300. So, I mean, I think you got to figure out the defense. I mean, the offense seems like they're going to be able to move the ball and score points, which is, that's got to make you feel good as a fan just because, I mean, Stanford, like they always seem to give SC problems. And frankly, I mean, we had written them off. I mean, listen to the last podcast, like I thought USC would cover, I think. So, Stanford, I mean, most pundits felt the same way. So I'm sure Stanford didn't really appreciate that. And then they came out and played a great game. So defensively, I mean, that's where it is. So I mean, is there hope on your end that they're gonna turn this around defensively? Because if they can, I mean, they definitely have an offense that's gonna be competitive against pretty much anyone.
But if they can't get anyone off the field, it's almost like who cares?
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So I mean, if you're gonna play every game into the 40s and 30s, then I mean that brings a whole lot more losses into play, right? If you can't stop people.
Right.
And, I mean, I experienced this last year with Notre Dame, so I definitely know how that goes.
So this week, USC is on the road for the first time, and they're in Sun Devil Stadium, Arizona State. And I don't even know. USC hasn't beaten Arizona State in the last 2 years. Last time they were in Tempe, their coach got fired. This is not a friendly place for the Trojans.
And they gave up what? They gave up 51 points that night.
When Lane Kiffin got fired?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Got fired on the tarmac.
Classy move, guys.
Not good.
Yeah, so I'm not thrilled for this. Watching Michael Brukovici just wing the ball around.
Well, in fairness, I mean, Arizona State hasn't been exactly lighting the world on fire themselves.
This is true.
I mean, they played one team that's worth anything, that's Texas A&M, and they got crushed. They only had 291 total yards that game. I mean, in the next two games, they played Cal Poly and New Mexico.
And they weren't exactly blowouts. So
I don't even know what to say about those two teams. I mean, that's kind of embarrassing to schedule those two teams. If anyone wants to know why Notre Dame's an independent, it's because Arizona State had to play Cal Poly in New Mexico. That's why. That's why it's better to be independent if anyone wants to have that conversation with me anytime soon. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, I like USC in this game just because offensively I think they're good, and offensively Arizona State I don't think they're that good.
That's true. They don't have their best receiver from last year. They got a new quarterback, even though he did play a lot last year. It's just
I mean they've got DJ Foster, who's supposed to be really good. I mean all purpose wise.
Yes.
But they haven't gotten him going too much on the ground anyway. He's only got 97 yards rushing on the season. So,
I think he's trying to be a receiver.
I mean, he can be trying to, but I mean, he leads the team in catches, but he averages 7.6 yards a catch.
I didn't say he was good. I just said he was trying to be a receiver.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they got a lot of guys who are trying to be receivers like that. It's funny because the running back he leads the team in yards. He's got 8 catches for 178 and 2 touchdowns. That makes me feel like he had one good game. Let me check this out.
Probably.
Receiving game logs. Yeah. against New Mexico, he had 4 for 151 and 2. So,
and I mean, stats against New Mexico and Cal Poly are probably deceiving, regardless of
right.
how
So
the game
offensively, they don't really have that much. I wouldn't be super concerned about it.
I mean, that's great. That's great for them to go against USC's defense, who won't intercept the ball or recover a fumble. So this could be a good one to get the ball rolling for Arizona State.
Well, I've got something fun for you, Mike. So I'm looking at the Arizona State receiving options. And so so the 9th leading receiver in terms of yards with 6 receptions for 13 is junior running back DeChavon Gump Hayes. He is an all-name All-American right there.
That's a pretty good name.
DeChavon Gump Hayes. Unbelievable.
He's listed here as multi-threat running back.
Watch out for him, DeChavon.
Thanks. It's going to be real funny when he scores 2 touchdowns on Saturday. And the night game that no one on the East Coast is going to watch.
You know what? I'll tell you this much. I don't know how anyone on the East Coast watches any of these games, except for like college age kids, like literally in college kids. Like these games are on so late, like 10:30. Like, dude, I can't commit to stay up till 1:30, 2 a.m. on a Saturday. Like, especially me. Like, I need to go to bed.
All right. Well, before we swing over to the East Coast, Vegas has SC as a 5.5-point favorite. Who you got?
SC is the 5.5-point favorite?
Yep.
I like USC.
Yeah, me too.
I like USC like 34-20.
I don't know scores. I don't want to know. Last time I tried to predict the score for USC, it turned out not that hot. All right. Let's swing it over to the East Coast. Tell me about Notre Dame, Greg. You were there.
I was there, and I thoroughly enjoyed every second, save for the last minute and a half. I did not enjoy that. It was turning into an epic collapse, and I was starting to kind of freak out. But no, it went really well. It went better than I think any Notre Dame fan could have imagined defensively. I mean, Georgia Tech came in, they're averaging 60 points a game. They were rushing for 300 yards. They led the nation 350 yards rushing per game. They hadn't been stopped 3 and out all season. And the first 2 drives for their offense against Notre Dame's defense, Notre Dame, put them down 3 and out. So, it was very surprising. It was a great game plan. And it was just, it was really good to see, the team, you kind of had a feeling just on Thursday and Friday, just based on some of the comments from Brian Kelly in his Thursday media session. And then some of the players, you kind of had a sense that they were confident that they had a good plan. And, that confidence was warranted because they came out and they mixed things up on Georgia Tech. In the first quarter, Georgia Tech had to take a couple timeouts because the quarterback was confused about what he was seeing. Notre Dame did something they've never really done in the past, which was they switched up their alignment. So basically, against Navy in the past, Notre Dame has had either 3 down linemen and 4 backers and basically 1 single high safety, and that was kind of their plan. Or they've had 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers, and then 2 high safeties. And the problem with that is that will work for maybe the first couple of series, but then those teams make adjustments, and then you're kind of stuck because then it's we'll just block it this way. And then once they figure you out, then, you're kind of in a bad spot because, now they have all the angles and they have all the, they have the plays that can defeat the defense that you're running. So what Notre Dame did was they switched from 4 down linemen and 1 single safety to 2 down linemen, or I'm sorry, 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers and 2 safeties. And, you know, they switched. I mean, you can see it like on the first play, because I was looking for this also. On the first play, I want to say they had 2 high safeties. And then on the second play, they had 1 safety. And then on the third play, they had 3 high safeties again. And then they started doing some weird looks where they had 3 down linemen and one lineman standing up. So you didn't really know what he was doing. And I think what was confusing for Georgia Tech as well was Notre Dame changed who had what. So on the first play, the 2 outside linebackers crashed down on the inside run, and then the defensive end took quarterback, and then the middle linebacker scraped off to the pitch. And then they changed that responsibility throughout the game. So Georgia Tech, they didn't really know who they were blocking on a play-to-play basis. They didn't know who was attacking them on a play-to-play basis. So consequently,
yeah, you could see that on the TV. I mean, it looked like Notre Dame. You could see that on the TV. I mean, Notre Dame always had, you know, the pitch guy covered or the quarterback, you know, sealed up, so they kept contained. All that stuff. It looked real sound, and it looked like they had Georgia Tech thrown for a loop.
Yeah, I mean, I you know, the quarterback definitely looked flustered. He on a play-to-play basis, he didn't really know whether to give or not. He didn't really know where they were coming from. He was a lot more tentative than I've seen in the past. Usually the option offense is a lot more deliberate. They kind of know what they're seeing, and you could see that he was almost like not totally sure, should I pitch this or should I give it? And they had him confused most of the game. And I said last week, the first thing you have to do is make sure you stop the run up the middle. Georgia Tech's fullback was 18 carries for 66 yards. His long carry on the game was 6. So, you know, they didn't give up any big plays from him. Justin Thomas, as a runner, he was basically a non-threat. He had a couple 12-yard runs, but other than that, he didn't really hurt them. He had a touchdown that was called back because of holding. And then, you know, they got one big play. They had a 48-yard play, but I believe it was just on a toss where the corner got sucked in on a crack, and they got outside of him. But other than that, it seemed like Notre Dame's plan was to not let him on the option. They wanted it out of his hands as soon as possible, and then they would all pursue towards the sideline and use the sideline as a defender. I mean, they did a great job. They held Georgia Tech to 218 yards rushing, which sounds like a lot, but that's the lowest yards they've had on the ground since 2013. So it was a great plan.
And the nonsense at the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that was you could tell. So after the precise 91-yard run, you could tell Georgia Tech, like, they weren't in a hurry. They didn't go no huddle. They were using all of the play clock. So, I mean, they were basically waving the white flag, and I think Notre Dame's defense just kind of said, all right, this game's over. And then they just mentally kind of shut down. And when you do that against, you know, a team that runs the option like that, like, they're going to have an edge on you. So, I mean, they were able to move the ball, and then they get the onside kick. Then they score in like 4 plays, and then it's another onside kick, and it's only an 8-point game. So I was pretty nervous, but, you know, they got it, and, you know, they closed it up.
It all worked out for old Notre Dame. How excited was everyone in the stadium when Will Fuller caught his touchdown pass again, per usual?
I mean, I was excited. I mean, Will Fuller, he's so fast. I mean, the funny thing is you say, like, oh, how do they let him open? Well, the corner was playing 10 yards off. I mean, he's just fast. Like, you just don't realize how fast he is. And then the quarterback, you know, he kind of underthrew it because at that point in the game, the wind was blowing pretty hard. So the ball kind of hung up there. And then, you know, Will Fuller sees it. The corner doesn't. He stops short, and, you know, he scores a touchdown. I thought Kaiser for his first start, he was by no means perfect. He threw a bad interception in the end zone.
I mean, that was
from
a
the
good catch
5.
though by the defensive guy.
It
It
was.
wasn't
No,
like
I
he
totally
threw
was.
it right to him. You know.
Well, I think it's a bad interception in the sense that, like, they had a chance to go up 2 scores there, and you just can't throw interceptions in the end.
Right. It wasn't the safe play. I mean, he tried to throw an interception like the play earlier.
Yeah, you can't throw interception in the end zone from the 5. It's one thing if you're throwing a bomb and the guy catches an end zone, that's whatever. But if you're throwing an interception in the end zone, especially against a team like Georgia Tech, like, you need all the points you can get. And at that point in the game, like, we know now that Georgia Tech wasn't going to be effective offensively. We didn't know at the time. So, and that was when it was just still 7-0. And then after that, Georgia Tech scored their first touchdown like 4 plays. So it kind of went from, it was going to be 14-0 or 10-0 to it was 7-7. But they came back, on the very next drive and scored a touchdown with Procise. So,
I have a question.
Good answer.
Speaking of CJ Procise, I have a question for you. This is a serious question.
Okay.
If Terrion Folston doesn't get hurt, is Notre Dame as good as they are right now? Because I feel like Procise has been great. He's always yards after contact. He's always shifty. They can never get a clean shot on him. He the 91-yard run on Saturday. Are they as good if Terrion Folston doesn't get hurt?
Are they as good? I would say yes, they are as good. Just because, I mean, there are instances where you really wish you had Folston, right? Like, there were times in the game where I thought they really need him out there because Procise is carrying the ball. I mean, if the question was, do I think Terrion Folston would be doing the same thing as Procise, then the answer is no, because he's not as explosive. But, so, I mean, yes, Notre Dame is using their backup running back, but he's probably also their best running back. They just didn't know. It's like Ohio State when they played, when they had to go to Cardale Jones. It's like, oh, it's their third-team quarterback. Yeah, well, it's probably their best one too. So you just didn't know that. So I think, the fact that Notre Dame, I mean, they're just down a running back who would get 10 to 12 carries a game. That's what they are right now. And I mean, so you can go to Terrion Folston. I mean, he's perfectly capable of running for 1,200 yards in this offense. And the thing that you lose when he goes down is you don't have CJ Procise flexing out into the slot and using him as a receiver. So I think they're as good offensively. But if you're asking me who the better player is, then I mean, you have to say Procise at this point. I mean, I think Terrion Folston's longest play is 43 yards. And on that play, I remember it specifically, it was a screen against North Carolina. If that was CJ Procise, he scores. And Folston does not burst through the line for 91 yards like CJ Procise did.
Right.
I mean, he's playing incredibly well right now. And he's not just a speed guy. I mean, he ran with power. He's not afraid to put his shoulder pads down and get extra yards. So, I mean, but at this point, there's 2 freshmen behind him. If anything happens to him, which, I mean, I would knock on wood, but I don't think it would help with this team.
The way things are going.
I mean, with these guys, I either expect a big play or I expect someone to blow out their knee. I mean, that's basically what it is. I mean, we're tearing up our knees on celebrations at this point.
I was going to ask you, since you were there, did you know what happened when Drew Tranquill got hurt? Like, could you see it?
I had no idea.
Oh man, it was so bad on TV. I felt so bad for the kid.
Well, I've seen it. I've seen it now.
Right.
I've seen it now, and Tim texted and said he's out for the season. And I thought because he was limping off, so I was like, I mean, maybe he's just messing around. But then, like, I think there was rumblings in the crowd from someone that, like, no, like, he tore up his knee. And then I saw it later. And, people, and I want to talk about just this whole idea of, like, oh, he got hurt celebrating. Like, what an idiot or what a dumb thing to do. Like, all right, football is a game of running and jumping at a very high speed. Okay, like the kid jumped in the air and he landed and he tore up his knee. Okay, he was celebrating with a teammate. So it's not like, oh, this sort of thing is preventable. Well, I mean, I guess, like, okay, don't jump up in the air when you celebrate. Like, what does that even mean? Like there's
Right.
Notre Dame does this thing called Trick Shot Monday, and they hit the ping pong ball into this little cup of Gatorade water, and when they make it, they all run around and they jump around and they're all happy. Well, someone could tear up their knee doing that too. If you're gonna just jump in the air and land on one foot and tear up your knee, like that could happen 100 million times, like different ways. So it's just unlucky. Like the kid it's unfortunate. I don't think you need to outlaw the type of celebration or anything. It's just
freak accident.
Yeah. But I mean, it's just like, you just wonder. I mean, like I said last week, why can't it just be like an ankle sprain?
Not for Notre Dame. Not for Notre Dame.
Not in 2015. I'm telling you, no nice things. I mean, and the sad thing is he was playing so well too.
He was playing so well.
He was playing such a great game. I mean, on the first series, he just lit up the running back, and the whole stadium just went nuts. You watched
the show. He got the game ball from Brian Kelly.
He did get the game ball. I saw that. He was very sad. He was very sad about what happened. As he should. He tore his ACL last year.
Yeah, I saw that. I read that.
He tore his ACL last year intercepting a pass. And like a similar thing. Like he intercepted a pass on the sideline, and he went to like tap his foot to get it in bounds, and that landing tore up his knee. So I mean, you just feel bad for him. I mean, it's not a loss like Folston or Zaire, but I mean, they're going to play Navy, so.
Well, safety doesn't appear to be the strong point of the defense in watching these three games. So who's going to play safety against UMass? Let's jump ahead to this coming weekend.
Well, I think Max Redfield is going to move back into the starting role. He didn't play against Georgia Tech because he had a broken hand and he had a cast on it. And I mean, tackling was at a premium last week. So, he suited up, but he didn't even go in as the backup. So I'm pretty sure that he's going to start there this week. Getting into UMass, I mean, they throw the ball all the time. So just a center fielder safety is kind of what you need more this week than you do like an in the box safety like Drew Tranquil is. And then to back him up at that spot. And he started at safety for the 2012 team. So, and that just kind of shows like what the depth is of this team. Like Matthias Farley started at safety in 2012 for a 12-0 team and like the number 6 defense in the nation. And now he's a backup and special teams player. So, I mean, they have the talent.
Is UMass good enough to be considered a trap team? Is it possible? I mean, yeah. Famous last words. But
here's the thing. I would like to say no. The only thing that concerns me is like Kaiser is still like just a redshirt freshman, and he's still like it'll be his second start. And it's one thing to gear up for a big game against Georgia Tech. It's another thing to come back down to earth, and it's like no, that's got to happen every week. Like you have to be on a high like that every week now. Like this isn't practice, this isn't a one-off game where I need to come in, because someone turned their ankle or sprained their knee and I need to play big in one game and then that guy's going to come back in. Like, no, this has to happen every week. And you just don't know how he's going to react. The good thing is that, Will Fuller's still fast and CJ Postice is still good. And the offensive line is still big and strong. and they really don't take weeks off. So, you know, you can be vanilla against UMass and score a lot of points because their athletes are so good. So, I mean, I know the line is like 28,
29,
something like that, 29 now. So, I mean,
do you take the points, or do you give the points?
I'm gonna take the points this week. I'm
also gonna take the points.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's something like 30, like 35 to 17, 38 to 17, something like that. I think it'll probably be like 35 to 10 at one point, and then they'll score late. You know, UMass, they literally throw the ball all the time. They have as many rushes on the season as Notre Dame had against like Texas. So they don't want to run very much. They want to throw. They want to spread you out. They have a quarterback whose name I can't pronounce, but you know, he's been around for a while. I mean, I expect Notre Dame to handle them pretty easily.
Yeah, they should win. I mean,
yeah, I'm not worried about it. I only kind of worry about just, you know, I don't think it's going to be the walk in the park that Notre Dame, like the majority of fans think. But I think they'll win fairly easily.
And this is the first time that we've picked a team that we don't root for, so that's got to be good luck for Notre Dame as well.
Well, we didn't really pick them. I mean, I picked them not to lose by 4 touchdowns.
Well, hey, that's something.
It's something.
All right. Do you have any fun news and notes before we wrap this thing up?
Yeah, when's Lane Kiffin gonna get fired?
That guy, he loves to be employed. He has a real knack for getting jobs, and I'm not quite sure how or why.
And you know what? Like, as much as like I'm sure he gets a lot of blame in Alabama, but like, how many points did their defense give up?
1 million.
A lot.
Ole Miss just kept scoring.
A lot, and that's
that wacky touchdown was good.
That's Nick Saban's thing. Like, what's going on with that? Like, when does he get a little bit of criticism? Like, he lost at home again.
Never. Not in college. It's the SEC, Greg. That is something to not be scoffed at.
I don't know. I mean, he lost at home to the 15th ranked team. I mean, that Deshaun Kaiser didn't do that.
No, he didn't. He's a backup quarterback.
He didn't.
Did you watch the Notre Dame show on Showtime?
I usually watch it a week after. It usually ends up on YouTube, and I check it that way.
Well,
I know Kaiser had some pretty candid comments, though.
He did. He really did. But
I mean, good for him.
The takeaway I was going to make was I think whoever produces it listens to the podcast, because there was a whole lot less Joe Schmidt. I mean, he was barely on it. Well,
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure they have focus groups on this sort of thing, and everyone was kind of like, "Hey, like, yeah." You know what's great though is Joe Schmidt was amazing last weekend.
He did play really well.
He was great. I think I want to say he led the team in tackles, and he was just, I mean, everywhere.
He was fundamentally sound.
The thing about it was, like, I mean, he's known for getting the team lined up, and they always seemed on point with where they were supposed to be. So good for Joe Schmidt. Good for him.
Maybe he was busy working on the defense and not being on TV. So that might have been the change. All right, Greg, I think it's time to get out of here.
All right, buddy.
Let's see. You follow Greg on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle, Greg?
At Greg2126.
For all your Notre Dame and Laker needs. You follow me. I'm Michael Muto at Twitter. I got to thank Mash and Flutter for the theme song. I always forget to do that. Follow us on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to your podcast. Review the podcast. We always like hearing people have to say. You can email us at tiltingground@gmail.com. And we really enjoy doing it, and we hope you like it too. Fight on.
Go Irish.